And then we continue on with our with our discussion on introduction to income taxation. So, on the previous video, we have discussed the first two requisites or the first two tests to indicate or to for us to determine whether an item of gross income is taxable or not. So we have finished the return on capital test, and we have also finished the realized benefits test. And lastly, the non-exemption test. Actually, non-exemption test is no-brainer for us already because, okay, it's very much basic. It's just like this one. Okay, it's just this one. Ano ho ang sinasabi ng non-exemption test? An item of gross income, okay? An item of gross income should not be taxable or should not be gross income for taxation if it was exempted. Who exempts it is either the Constitution, the law, a contract, or a treaty. Basically, if a provision under the law, a provision under the Constitution, or of treaties or bilateral agreements, contracts, okay, provides that the income that was received shall be taxable. Okay, shall be taxable. Then, hindi ho siya item of gross income. Ganun lang ho kadali. Okay, ganun lang ho kadali yung third exempt or third test. Tignan nyo lang kung sa batas, exempt yung particular item of gross income na yon, at kung exempt, then it will not form part of taxable gross income. Pero if wala naman hong exemptions, then, therefore, it is an item of gross income worthy of taxation. Ano ho ba yung mga examples? Actually, later on, kaya hindi ko siya i-discuss extensively right now. Kasi nga, later on, may separate topic po tayo or may separate chapter po tayo for exemptions, for tax exemptions. Okay? Or for exclusions in income taxation. Pero just for comparison or just for an overview, example nito would be SSR, mga statutory deductions, statutory benefits. Okay? Nakasaad ho sa batas na ang mga employee contributions or yung mga deductions na ginagawa ginagawa sa sa income or sa sweldo ng isang tao, sa sweldo ng isang individual, okay? Ano ho 'yon? Non-taxable ho siya because they are deductible. Okay? Ano ba yung mga example mga SSS, GSIS, okay? Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, okay? Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, SSS, GSIS, lahat ho 'yon. Okay? Lahat ho 'yon. Example ng statutory benefits in which case they are not taxable. Okay? Another one, yung revenue from property taxes of religious organization, ganyan, for example, di ba? Exempt sila from property taxes. Again, that's an example of a constitutional exemption. Di ba? Yun, salaries and wages of minimum wage earners. So, minimum wage. Okay, minimum wage or SMWE. SMWE stands for statutory minimum wage earners. So kapag statutory minimum wage earner po sila, they will be exempt to income tax kasi nga it is provided for by the law. They were exempted by virtue of a law. So, kahit po na ipasa niya yung first and second item, okay? Kahit na ipasa niya yung return on capital at na ipasa niya yung realized benefits, hindi siya pumasa sa third item which is non-exemption. Kasi nga, it is exempted. So, therefore, it will not constitute gross income. It will not constitute gross income. Later on, guys, mapag-aaralan natin yung mga specific items of income that should be excluded. Okay? That should be excluded for taxation. For taxation purposes. Don't worry. Okay, so yun lang ho, yung third exemption natin. Ayan. So, we go to our last, we go to our next discussion. So finally, if lahat ho nung tatlong test na yon na-meet natin, then congratulations! We have a taxable gross income. Okay? We have a taxable gross income. We have identified a taxable gross income. Now, after identifying a taxable gross income, we are ready to go to the next topic. So kung sa unang kung sa unang topic natin, we have identified items of gross income, whether they are taxable or not. Yun yung unang tanong Yun yung una natin kailangang tanungin. Is this type of income taxable or not? Kapag na-identify na natin yung sagot doon sa tanong na yon, and we have identified the groups of gross income that are to be taxed, then we go to the next topic. What is our next topic? We have to understand who our taxpayer is. Sino ba yung taxpayer natin? Anong type ng taxpayer ang kailangan nating tignan? What are we, or what type of taxpayer are we dealing with? Okay, what type of taxpayer are we dealing with? But before we go to that, syempre kailangan nating sumagot ng isang comprehensive discussion. Okay? Kailangan nating sumagot ng isang comprehensive discussion in terms of gross income determination. So altogether, we read the problem. Sabi niya, Hao and Biol has the following items of possible income. Number 1, income from renting the penthouse, 300,000. Number 2, income from theft, 250,000. Number 3, tuition revenue from Chonga Arts High School, a non-stop, non-profit educational institution, 400,000. The next, proceeds from a mental anguish case, moral damages for loss of sanity, 230,000. Increase in the value of Chonga Construction Group shares at fair value, 450,000. And lastly, winnings from winnings from a musical competition, 200,000. And lastly, loan from Judante Bank, 300,000. JDT, Judante. So, kung nakuha niyo yung reference again, wow, mga nanonood ng penthouse dyan. So anyway, our task is to determine the total gross income for taxation purposes. So I'll give you some time. Okay, I'll give you some time to solve for the correct answer. I'll give you you can pause. Okay, you may pause the video for you to answer. Okay, so we're done. May paano na naman. Okay? So, with that, we continue with our discussion. So, I assumed that you have already answered the question. So, ang requirement natin is for us to compute for the total gross income. So, first, we go to the income from renting the penthouse. Income from renting the penthouse. Okay? So, ito, rent income to. Basically, it constitutes a return on capital. It also is a realized benefit. And lastly, it's not exempted from law. Add natin yan. Include natin yan. Next, income from theft. So kanina, we have understood the fact that even if it's from an illegal source, it is still considered an income. Okay? Even if it's from an illegal source, it will still be considered as income. Kasi nga, we have derived a benefit and it is a return on capital. Ano yung capital mo? Di ba pag nanakaw, syempre. Anong capital mo pag nanakaw? So it has an increase in revenue or increase in benefits. So therefore, sali natin yan. Next, tuition revenue from Chonga Arts High School, a non-stock, non-profit educational institution. Ano sa tingin nyo yan? Will it be exempt? Or will it be included? Will it be included as a gross income or not? include nat, or hindi natin siya include. Excluded siya, syempre. Why? Kasi it violated the third test. Okay? It violated the third test. So, kahit po ano siya, return on capital ho siya, and it was a realized benefit, it violated the third test. That is the non-exemption test. Why? Okay, because tuition income or educational income received by a non-stock, non-profit educational institution shall be exempted from income tax. Maalala niyo ho yan. Nasa constitutional prohibitions po yan, di ba? Nasa constitutional mandates ho yan. It's an example of a constitutional limitation, and therefore, it is an exemption that was accorded for by the Constitution. Ibig sabihin, na-violate ho yung third, yung third test natin. Okay? Violation of the third test. Exempt. Okay? So, therefore, it should not be included. Next, proceeds from a mental anguish case. Moral damages for loss of sanity. Okay? So, ano sa tingin nyo yan? Ano sa tingin nyo yan? Okay? Kapag moral damages ang involved, again, it involves health and mental, health and reputation. Health and human reputation. Okay? Mental anguish case. It's a moral damage. Okay? So, if that's the case, if this is a proceed for a moral damage, okay, then this should not be included. Again, because of infinite value clause. Okay? So, it should not be included. Okay? Next, we have increase in the value of Chonga Construction Group shares at fair value worth 450,000. Worth 450,000. Okay. Ano sa tingin nyo yan? Is it included or not? Siyempre, not included. Not included. Okay? Basically, it's not included. Why? Kasi nga, increase in value pa lang po ito. Okay? This is a manifestation of a benefit. Charot. Benefit without transfer. Unrealized eh. Unrealized. Okay? So, with this, it has violated the second test. So, it might be a return on capital. It might not be exempt. However, it was unrealized. Okay, which makes it not a gross income. Ayan. Next, winnings from a musical competition. Ito, kasali to. Kasi nga, it constituted the three. Okay, the three tests. Napasan niyo yung three tests. And lastly, loan from JBP. This is not included. Okay, not included. Why is it not included? For the very reason that it is just a mere increase of wealth. Without increase in benefits. Walang increase in benefits kasi hindi ka naman magbe-benefit pag mag-uutang ka eh. Umutang ka, pero babayaran mo lang din in the future. So, anong net benefit mo? Zero. Okay, may expense ka pa kasi minsan may interest ang mga loans, di ba? So, basically, it's not a benefit. So, it violated, therefore, the second aspect of the threefold test that we have, which is a realized benefit. Walang benefit eh. So, therefore, yung loan, hindi yan kasali. So, now we have identified the following items that should be considered for total gross income. Ano yung mga yon? 300,000 from the penthouse rent, 250,000 from theft, and winnings from a musical competition of 200,000. So, our total gross income, therefore, should be... Okay? Very good. Wow. At as if naman nakikipag-usap ako sa through video. Anyway, yan. So that would be our total gross income. 750,000 pesos. Okay. So with that, we have ended with the first test or first question. What constitutes gross income? Okay. So I'll give you some time to make a screenshot muna. Okay, so I guess we're ready to go to the next item. Okay. With that, we continue our discussion. Okay, so now that we have answered the first question to our long pursuit towards taxation. Unang tanong pa lang yan, ha, guys. Kailangan pa natin sagutin yung mga ibang tanong. Ano ba yung ibang tanong? Ano yung next answer na? Ano yung next na kailangan natin sagutin? Of course, we have to understand the types of taxpayers. We have to understand the types of taxpayers. Okay? So, there are actually three major types of taxpayers. Meron hong two types lang pala, should say. Sorry, two types of taxpayers. It may be an individual taxpayer, or it may also be a corporate taxpayer. Okay? Individual or corporate taxpayer. What constitutes an individual taxpayer? So, na-discuss na po natin tong mga to nung intro. Pero kailangan natin i-discuss pa further. Okay? Kailangan pa natin i-discuss further. What constitutes a citizen? Okay? A citizen, resident citizen, non-resident. Okay? Resident citizen, resident alien, and non-resident alien. Okay? So, non-resident alien, it may be for business or not for business. So, ETB and NetB. We will discuss that. Okay? We will discuss that very much later. Okay? Very much later. So, with that, we go to our handout. Ang mahiwagang PDF viewer natin. Wait lang, guys. Yan. So, unahin natin yung mga types of income taxpayers that are individual. Okay? Individual taxpayers muna tayo, guys. Okay? Individual taxpayers muna tayo. When can we say that it is an individual income taxpayer? When it is a natural person or a trust. Okay? Natural persons, it covers natural persons, estates, and trust. Okay? Natural persons, estates, and trusts. Yan ho. Okay? Yan ho ang main constitution or main constitution ng isang individual taxpayer. Under individual taxpayers, nandyan ho yung mga mga types of taxpayers in terms of their location and citizenship. Una, we have the citizen. Okay? We have the citizen. Citizen, again, as discussed noon, where you pledge your allegiance. Okay? Where you are currently registered as a bona fide member of the state. In this case, we are talking about Filipino citizenship. Are we a citizen of the Philippines or are we not a citizen of the Philippines? That's the question. Okay? That's the question. And actually, guys, there are some requisites, okay, to understand whether we are a citizen or not. Okay? Number one, if we are citizens of the Philippines during the time na na-adopt ang Constitution natin. So, nung na-adopt ho ang Constitution, nung February 2, 1987, okay, the moment na-adopt siya that time, if you are a citizen, okay, already of the Philippines during that particular period, then you are automatically considered a citizen of the Philippines. So, basically, kapag pinanganak ka dito, at tapos Pinoy yung mga magulang mo, then Pinoy ka. Okay, Pinoy ka dati. Pinoy ka agad. you're automatically a Filipino. Okay, next, those whose fathers or mothers are citizens of the Philippines. So yung mga yung mga parents nila Filipino, okay? Yung kung mga parents niyo is Filipino, okay, you have the power to become automatic citizens of the Philippines. Kahit nasa ibang bansa kayo na ipanganak, okay? Kahit sa ibang bansa ho kayo ipinanganak, kapag ho Filipino ang mga parents niyo, walang problema 'yan. Walang problema 'yan. Okay? Magiging Pilipino kayo. Magiging Pilipino kayo. Kasi nga citizen sila ng Pilipinas kahit nasa ibang bansa kayo pinanganak. Okay? And then those born before January 17, 1973, actually hindi na to hindi na ito nag-a-apply kasi madami nang matagal na patay. Madami nang mga matagal na patay. So most often ito is it's already anong tawag dito? It's already an old law or an old provision already, an old provision. So ang kailangan niyo lang talagang tandaan, if you are really was born here in the Philippines, okay? You were born here in the Philippines, and you are from a Filipino family, or you are from Filipino parents, okay? You are from citizens of the Philippines, talaga. Ipinanganak ka ng mga talagang citizens ng Pilipinas. Then you are considered a citizen. Or if not, if you are, of course, naturalized. Diba? So yung sinabi kong example nun, kapag naturalized kasi si Hungary Syrian wanderer, 'di ba? Originally he's a Syrian national, 'di ba? However, okay, he fell in love with the Filipino culture and decided to be one with us as a citizen of the Philippines. So, madami pa ring mga nag-hate sa kanya, marami pa ring may ayaw sa kanya because of his issue being a Pinoy baiter. But he himself is already a Filipino. Okay? He himself is already a Filipino. Ayan. So, under the citizenship, we have two types of citizens. Okay? The citizen may either be a resident citizen or a non-resident citizen. So, resident citizen. Okay? RC and NRC. Okay? RC or NRC. Ayan. Okay? So, ang pinaka-fundamental po is, of course, si resident citizen. Ang pinaka-fundamental po ay si resident citizen. Sino po ba si resident citizen? Basically, okay, a Filipino citizen which is residing in the country. So, citizen siya ng Pilipinas, nakatira din po siya sa Pilipinas. Okay? So, tayo, we are residents, right? So, actually, na-discuss na natin to. But then again, we will look into the specific rules. You are also considered a resident citizen if you just went abroad for being a tourist. So, say, kumuha ka ng tourist visa, pumunta ka ng South Korea to meet your K-pop idols, mga bias mo, di ba? Yan. And then, ang binigay lang sa inyo is 1 week. Di ba? After the lapse of 1 week, okay? After the lapse of 1 week, babalik ka ng Pilipinas. Okay? On the entire duration of your stay in South Korea, you will not be considered a non-resident citizen. Why? Okay, why? Because you just went abroad for a short and definite purpose, and that is to become a tourist or a sojourner. Okay? Sojourn as in, like gusto mo lang talaga magliwaliw. Gusto mo lang maging turista sa ibang bansa. Okay, if that's the case, then you are not qualified to be called an NRC. An NRC kasi nga, in the first place, you just went there, okay? You just went there to become a tourist. You just went abroad to become a tourist and not for a definite purpose, that is to leave the Philippines and to live outside of the Philippines for a long time. Okay? To live in the Philippines for a long time. Magkaiba ho kasi yun. Okay? Magkaiba ho kasi yun. So if you just went abroad to become a tourist and then after 1 week umuwi ka lang din agad, or if after 2 weeks or even a maximum of 1 month, then you are considered a resident citizen. You're considered a resident citizen despite the fact na pumunta ka ng ng Amerika or ng South Korea or other countries. Okay, for that matter. For that matter. Now, ano naman ang pinagkaiba ng mga tourist sa isang NRC or non-resident citizen? Mga ading, kapag ho kasi sinabi nating non-resident citizen, I'm sorry, kapag ho kasi sinabi nating non-resident citizen, okay, it is a citizen of the Philippines who establishes to the satisfaction the fact that he is to be, to physically reside, okay, physically reside abroad with the definite intention to reside there. So basically, okay, hindi ka lang talaga pumunta doon just to become a tourist, but you really have the intention to stay there for a long period of time. Okay, for a long period of time. Usually mga ading, kapag ho nag-decide talaga ang mga Pilipino or mga citizens to stay abroad for a long period of time, it's either they want to stay there for employment, they want to stay there just to unwind and have their life, okay, without letting go of their citizenship as a Filipino, syempre. Okay? Without letting go of their citizenship as a Filipino. So kung in their residence abroad ay Filipino pa rin sila, at citizens pa rin ho sila ng Pilipinas. They are just residing there for an indefinite and long period of time. Then they are considered a non-resident citizen. They're considered a non-resident citizen. So, it can be an immigrant or for employment. So, ito na yung mga tinasabi nating overseas Filipino workers or OFWs. Ayan. Okay? And syempre, hindi lang doon nagtatapos. Ano pa ba yung mga examples? That is, if you are a citizen of the Philippines, but you are just working and deriving your income abroad. Pero, bumabalik-balik ka ng Pilipinas. Okay? Bumabalik-balik ka ng Pilipinas. Meron ho tayong threshold dito, guys. Meron ho tayong threshold dito. Wait lang. I'll give you the time pala to I'll give you the time to to make a screenshot pala muna. Okay, class. So I believe na nakapag-screenshot na kayo. So let's begin. Let's continue with our discussion. Ayan. So yun ho yung primary difference between a resident citizen who just went abroad for a tourist visa or just for a sojourning purpose, in contrast with a non-resident citizen with a definite purpose of residing for a very long period of time, either for employment or for actually just living or residing there. Okay? Yun ho yung for immigration. Yun ho yung constitution ng isang non-resident citizen. Okay? Non-resident citizen. So kapag bisita ka lang talaga, you're not considered a non-resident citizen. You will still be considered all throughout the entire year as a resident citizen. A resident citizen. Ano pa ho yung example ng NRC? These are citizens of the Philippines in which they are working abroad, okay, most of the time for a particular year. So, actually guys, meron tayong tinatawag na threshold test dito. Okay? Dito napapasok yung time test natin. Okay. So, yan, we have a blank canvas, white. Para at least maganda ang ating discussion. Allow me to just remove the markings on the whiteboard. Virtual whiteboard. Okay, anyway. Yan. Okay. Ay, sorry. So with that then, we continue on with our discussion. with that, then we continue on with our discussion. So, kung maalala nyo kanina, guys, okay, ang sabi natin, kapag resident citizen, it's either resides plus Filipino. Okay? Resides plus Filipino. Okay? Despite being tourist in other country, in abroad. Yun ho ang constitution ng isang RC. Kapag naman ho NRC, okay, Filipino plus living abroad as a worker, immigrant, okay, and ayun, worker or immigrant, okay, worker or immigrant or resident. Dito kasi, the intention is clear. Kung ang intention is to work, to become an immigrant or to become a resident abroad for a very long period of time, at nakikita natin yung intention na yun, no problem. They are classified as an NRC or non-resident citizen. Non-resident citizen. Yan. So, okay? So, nakikita naman ho yun nakikita naman ho siya sa intention. Doon sa visa. Okay? Nakikita ho yun sa visa. It's either a student visa, okay, workers visa, di ba? Okay? Others also have their own resident visa, ganyan, for example. Okay, pwede rin yun. Okay, pwede rin yun. Yun ho yung constitution ng isang NRC. Yun ho yung constitution ng isang NRC. However, there are other Filipinos in which, okay, Filipino ho sila. Okay, plus working abroad. Okay? But, returns to PH every once in a while. So, ito ho, ang magiging basehan ho natin dito is period of time. Which is the 183-day principle. Okay? Yun ho ang isa pang definition ng isang NRC. So kanina, na-establish natin the fact that an NRC is a Filipino with a definite intention to live abroad, either as a worker, as a student, as an immigrant, as a resident, for a very long period of time. Those are examples of a non-resident citizen. However, meron ho yung mga Pilipino na nagtatrabaho abroad, but only for a definite period in a particular period of, or in a particular year. So say for example, in the whole of 2021, okay, pumupunta siya abroad for, say, a secondment, for example, for employment purposes. Sinabi sa kanya na, okay, you have to be seconded, you have to be put to Thailand for a secondment. Okay? Yung secondment ho na yun, ibig sabihin, pinagtrabaho ho siya doon as an exchange worker. Say, for example, ganon. Hindi pa natin na-establish yung clear intention ng worker na yon to reside in Thailand. Okay? Hindi ho natin na-establish yung fact that he will reside in Thailand. However, okay, his work requires him to go to Thailand. Okay? Ngayon, syempre, dun siya kumikita. Dun siya nag-work. And then, after which, if matapos yung secondment, babalik siya ng Pilipinas. Okay? So, if in that particular year, yun yung nangyari, then, hindi natin masasabing NRC siya agad. Hindi natin masasabing NRC siya agad. Ano yung mag-a-apply? Yung period of time principle. period of time principle. Ano ho yung period of time principle? Kailangan nating malaman kung nagtagal ba siya sa abroad for at least 183 days. Ito ho ang threshold. 183-day principle or 183-day threshold. So kung naipasa ho niya, say, pumunta siya ng Thailand, nag-work siya doon as an employee, and he stayed there for at least 183 days. Okay, then, he is qualified to become a non-resident citizen. Non-resident citizen. Okay, yun ho yung ibig sabihin nito. Okay, yun ho yung ibig sabihin ng Filipino working abroad but returns to PH every once in a while. Ito yung indefinite ang intention. Hindi clear yung intention. Kasi meron yung mga ganon. However, if the intention is clear, that is to live abroad as a worker, as an immigrant, then, therefore, it is already considered, ano tawag dito? It's considered already a non-resident citizen or an NRC. So, see the difference between an RC and an NRC. Diba? RC and NRC. Next. Ay, wait lang. Screenshot niyo muna. Siyempre. Okay, I think we're done having a screenshot of it. So, let's go to our next topic. That is, before we go to aliens pala guys, you have to understand this one. You have to understand this one. Sir, paano yung mga ambassadors in Philippine embassies in foreign countries? Okay? Paano yung mga yon? Yan. Very good question. Very nice question. So, kung maalala nyo, kung mapapansin nyo, okay, Philippines, okay, has its embassies in different parts of the world. So, say for example, in the USA, okay, meron hong embahada ng Pilipinas sa US. Just inside the Washington, or inside the US's capital of Washington, D.C. Okay? Sa Washington, D.C. po, nakasituate lahat ng mga embassies dito sa United States. So, the embassy of UK sa United States, for example, or the Canadian embassy sa US, even the Philippine embassy. Okay? Philippine embassy in the US is situated within Washington, D.C. Sa UK naman, ang Philippine embassy is within London, just near Buckingham Palace. Okay? Just near Buckingham Palace. Ngayon, di ba, syempre, every embassies, meron tayong tinatawag na Philippine ambassador. So, the ambassador acts as a consulate or acts as a, kumbaga, a representative of the Philippine government towards that, inside that particular location. So, kasi syempre, di ba, hindi naman natin maiiwasan na every now and then may mga bilateral talks tayo, may mga diplomatic ties tayo with these countries, lalong-lalo na ang US kasi nga US is our ally, di ba? That is why, okay, Philippines has established its embassies abroad. And sa mga embassies na yon, meron tayong mga ambassadors. And yung ambassadors na to, these are the representatives themselves of the government. So, ang mga ambassadors, okay? Especially also yung other Filipinos that are working in Philippine embassies. So, yung mga employees, okay? Mga employees sa Philippine embassy, madalas Pilipino yung mga yan. So, yung mga Pilipino na nandun sa Philippine embassies, they are not considered non-resident citizens. Okay? Ito yung exemption. Okay? So, kung ang general rule, kapag nagtatrabaho ka sa ibang bansa and you are staying there for a definite purpose, you are a non-resident citizen. Tama? However, okay, ang mga nasa Philippine embassy, despite the fact that a Philippine embassy is abroad, situated abroad, they are still considered, okay, resident citizens. Resident citizens. Yan, medyo nakakapagod mga sis. Kanina pa ako nag-discuss. Okay, anyway. So, yun ho yung exemption to the general rule that a non-resident citizen in the Philippines should be taxable not as a non-resident but also rather as a resident citizen. Okay? So, ibig sabihin ho nito, kapag empleyado ka na Pinoy na nasa isang Philippine embassy abroad, you will not be considered as a non-resident citizen. Instead, you will still be considered a resident citizen. For the main reason that they are, or the consular offices or the embassies are just mere extensions of the Philippine government. Meaning, okay, meaning, kapag nasa loob ka ho ng embassy, it's as if you are within the jurisdiction of the Philippines. Despite the fact that the embassy is situated or located abroad, okay, situated abroad, you are still a member or you are still within the location of the Philippines. You are still under the jurisdiction of the Philippine government kapag nasa loob ka ho ng embassy. So, payo lang dun sa mga may nanay na may nanay na nasa abroad. may magulang na nasa abroad, ganyan. Pag naho-homesick na sila sa Pilipinas, sabihan nyo, pumunta sila sa mga embassy. Kahit sa grounds lang talaga ng embassy na na nasa labas mismo ng building. Pagkaapak mo doon, it's as if you are in the Philippines. Why? Because it is considered within the Philippine jurisdiction already. Okay? At least mafe-feel nila doon na nasa Pilipinas sila. Okay? So that's the very essence of this exemption. In which case, kapag nasa loob ka ng Philippine embassy at nag-work ka doon, okay? Nag-work ka doon as an employee of the Philippine embassy, then you are considered a resident citizen, not a non-resident citizen. Despite the fact that it is located abroad and that the Filipino is working abroad, it's a clear deviation from that rule. Okay? It's a clear deviation from that rule. Ayan. So with that, we go to the next type of taxpayer in accordance with its citizenship. So kung kanina, napag-usapan na natin yung dalawang main items in terms of citizenship, that is a resident citizen and a non-resident citizen. I'm sorry. Ngayon naman meron ho tayong tinatawag na alien. Okay? Hindi yung alien na galing outer space. No. Okay? Under taxation purposes, an alien is it is a taxpayer which is not a resident or an individual which is not a resident or which is not a citizen, should say. Yun lang, basically. Okay? Basically. So, ang another word ng alien is a non-citizen. Okay? Wait lang. Parang ganito. Non-citizen. So, ginawa lang kasing alien para hindi magmukhang weird yung mga names ng taxpayers. Kasi kapag sinabing non-citizen, baka mamayang sabihin is non-citizen resident. Non-citizen non-resident. So, di ba parang ang weird pakinggan? So, at least, kapag ni-reword siya, naging alien, hindi ko rin alam kung bakit tinawag na alien. Basta yon, kapag alien kasi, di ba, a foreign expatriate, parang hindi siya familiar here in the Philippines. Yun yung primary reason siguro kung bakit siya tinawag na alien after all, okay? Anyway, again, kapag sinabi nating alien, it is not a citizen of the country. In this case, it's not a Filipino citizen. So, may dalawang classifications din ulit ho tayo. Si resident alien and si non-resident alien. Okay, si RA, and we also have the NRA, which is nasa baba. Later na natin siya pag-usapan. So first, we go with RA, or resident alien. Okay, basically, RA, or resident alien, is an alien or a non-citizen of the Philippines, which is residing in the Philippines. Okay? So again, titingnan natin yung intention. Sabi niya, an alien who lives in the Philippines. Magkaiba ho to yun, guys ha. Magkaiba ho yun. An alien who lives in the Philippines without a definite intention as to his stay. So, kung hindi naman natin malaman kung ano yung dahilan kung bakit niya naisipang manirahan dito sa Pilipinas, okay, as long as naninirahan siya dito sa Pilipinas, okay, he is considered a resident alien. He is considered a resident alien. Next, one who comes to the Philippines for a definite purpose. Okay, for a definite purpose. Which in its nature would require an extended stay. Okay, and to that end makes his home temporarily in the Philippines. Okay, it is it is his intention to return to his domicile abroad later. So anong ibig sabihin nito? Okay? So ang definite purpose niya, meron ho siyang itinalagang parang tungkulin na gagampanan dito sa Pilipinas. Maybe as a worker, for example, 'di ba? As an employee, or as a diplomat, ganyan. And this definite purpose requires him to stay in the Philippines for long enough. So siguro more than a year, 3 years, 5 years, ganon. And okay, because of this, na matagal siyang kailangang manirahan dito sa Pilipinas, malamang kailangan niyang mag-establish ng residence niya dito sa Pilipinas. And that makes them a resident alien. So foreign employees, marami hong foreign expatriate workers dito sa Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na sa Makati City. Sa Makati City, makikita niyo ho doon mga Taiwanese, Chinese, Japanese, all of them are actually employees here in the Philippines. And they are examples of resident aliens because they were assigned to be here in the Philippines for a long period of time as employees. Okay, as employees. Same's true with our overseas Filipino workers. Same's true with our overseas Filipino workers. Kung sa point of view natin na Filipino government sila ay non-resident citizen, sa point of view ng ibang country, they will be considered as resident aliens. Resident aliens. So later on, titignan natin yung diagram para at least makita nyo yung parang correspondence between them. Okay? Correspondence between them. Ayan. So, okay, so yun yung example. Yun yung definition ng isang resident alien. Example would be an alien who comes to the Philippines with an immigration visa. So, an immigration visa. So, ayun, nakalagay talaga sa visa nila that they are migrating here in the Philippines. They have the intention to reside here in the Philippines. Okay? Indefinitely or in permanence without losing their citizenship. Okay? Without losing their citizenship. Or, if without any intentions at all, makikita mong more than 1 year na siyang nakatira dito sa Pilipinas. Okay? Without, without any intention at all, kapag after 1 year, they are actually regarded to be resident aliens already. At kailan lang nawawala yung status mo as a resident alien? Once you depart from the Philippines. So, the moment umalis ka ng Pilipinas, okay, you will be stripped off of that resident alien status. At magiging isang non-resident alien ka na. Magiging isang non-resident alien ka na. Okay? So, yun po yun. And lastly, of course, the non-resident alien. Ay, wait lang. Hindi pa pala kayo nakapag-screenshot. Ayan. So, make a screenshot already. Okay. So, with that, we go to the last, which is the non-resident alien. Okay? We have the non-resident alien. Ano naman po itong non-resident alien? Sila non-resident alien naman po. Okay? Non-resident alien. I'm sorry about the mess. Kasi masyadong ganon. Ayan. So, kapag naman ko sinabi nating non-resident alien, ng page na tayo. Nasa page 4 pa lang tayo, mga manshi. So, ayan. Ang dami natin hindi pa natatapos. Okay, anyway. So, tomorrow, baka abutin natin ang situs tsaka income tax schemes. Hopefully. Siguro matatapos natin siya ng 1 hour 30 minutes lang and hopefully, maabot natin yung anong tawag dito? Final income taxation kahit second half lang ng discussion natin. Anyway, we go to the non-resident alien. Kapag ho sinabi nating non-resident alien, it is an individual who's not residing in the Philippines and who is not a citizen. Basically, di ba? NRA. So, tourist visa. So, ito yung equivalent ni resident citizen na naging tourist in other country. Okay? In another country. In another country. So, again, kapag ho engage in trade and business, those who stayed in the Philippines for an aggregate period of more than 180 days, and kapag not engage in trade or business, okay, aliens who come to the Philippines for a definite purpose which is in its nature promptly accomplished, or kapag without ito, aliens who shall come to the Philippines and stay therein for an aggregate period of not more than 180 days. So, kung mapapansin nyo guys, okay, meron tayong dalawang determination principles. Okay? Meron mo tayong dalawang main determination principles when we want to look towards the residence or citizenship of the particular taxpayer. Number one, meron po tayong tinatawag na intention test. Okay? Number one, intention test. And number two, time test. Kapag ho sinabi nating intention test, we look towards the intention of the taxpayer. We look into the intention of the taxpayer. Okay? So, titignan natin yung intention niya. In the absence of any intention, saka tayo pupunta kay time test. So, if no intention, we go to time test. Okay? For RC versus NRC, RA versus NRA, NRA, okay, NRA, ETB versus NRA, NetB. Ang time test ho natin, okay, ang time test ho natin, nakadepende here. 183 days, 1 year, and 180 days. Ito ho yung mga tests natin. Una, syempre titignan natin yung intention ni taxpayer. Ano ho ba yung intention ni taxpayer? Will he reside abroad? Then if yes, NRC siya. Will he work abroad for a long period of time? NRC. Okay? Will the alien or is the alien planning to reside in the Philippines as an immigrant, as an employee, or for an extended period of time? If yes, intention, RA. Okay? If for mere tourist lang, NRA. For business ba yan? NRA ETB. Not for business but only for visiting and for exploring Philippines at a short period of time, NRA NetB. Ngayon, pag wala ho yung mga intention na yon, pag hindi natin ma-identify yung intention, doon na papasok ang time test natin. Okay? So in terms of citizens, ano yung time test? 183 days. So kung nanirahan man si citizen abroad for a minimum number of 183 days, then they will be considered a non-resident citizen. Okay? Kapag naman ho RA versus NRA, kapag nanirahan ho ang isang alien dito sa Pilipinas for at least 1 year in aggregate, okay, then they will be considered an RA already. And then, again, time test for ETB and NetB. So, kapag umuwi agad si NetB, before the lapse of the 180 days, or si non-resident alien before the lapse of 180 days, then they become not engaged in trade or business. Pero, if a non-resident alien stayed in the Philippines for at least 180 days, then they will be considered a non-resident alien engaged in trade or business, or NRA ETB. So, ito ho yun. Intention test and time test ho, mga ading. Okay? Okay, so now, titignan natin yung equivalence test. Ano yung tinatawag nating equivalence? Or test of equivalence? Yung test of equivalence po, say, Philippines. Other country. Meron po tayong mga tinatawag na equivalence dyan. So, say for example, here in the Philippines, yung RC natin, resident citizen natin, it can either be A, okay? It can either be, wait. It can either be a non-resident alien, ETB, or NRA, net B. Okay? Kapag naman ho NRC, RA. Kapag naman ho RA, NRC. Diba? So nakikita niyo yung pattern. Nakikita niyo yung pattern. Okay, sige. Wait. And then, NRA, ETB, NRA, NEB. Yan. Okay, so ganyan ho yung layout ng correspondence ng taxpayers within the Philippines and other country. So yung resident citizens sa atin, for other countries, syempre, natural, it's an NRA, ETB, or NRA net B. Okay? So kapag yung mga non-residents naman sa atin, they are the RAs of other country. So, say for example, mga tourists, and then ito naman, OFWs, immigrants, okay? Ito naman, expats, expatriates. Expatriates is also the, another term for foreign workers who are in the Philippines, or foreign nationals. Okay? Yun ang ibig sabihin ng expatriate, foreign nationals. Okay? RA, okay, foreign nationals din po sila. And then NRC. And lastly, of course, NRA ETB and NRA net B. It's the resident citizen, of course, of the other country, of another country. Okay? So yun ho yung parang correspondence ng taxpayers. Yun ho yung correspondence ng taxpayers. Now, why is it very relevant and why is it very important for us to know whether or not RC, NRC, RA net, NRA, ETB, NRA net B? It's because of the taxation scheme. It's because of the taxation scheme. Ano ho ba yung tinatawag nating taxation scheme? Okay? Ano ho ba yung tinatawag nating taxation scheme? The taxation scheme works this way. The taxation scheme works this way. Okay? So I've done the liberty of completing the table for you guys para at least makatipid tayo sa video time. Okay. So anyway, this is the matrix, okay, for the taxability of different types of taxpayers. Unahin natin kay resident citizen. Okay, ito po yung very crucial reason why we have to classify taxpayers in terms of their type. Kung resident man siya, non-resident, RA, NRA, etc. Kasi they have different tax schemes. Which is, for that matter, kay resident citizen, for example, kapag ho sinabi nating resident citizen, taxable ho sila sa lahat ng income nila within and outside the Philippines. Within and outside the Philippines. Within the Philippines or without the Philippines. Without the Philippines po, ibig sabihin, outside. Okay? I repeat, kapag ho resident citizen ka, yung income mo sa loob ng Pilipinas at yung income mo sa labas ng Pilipinas ay taxable ho. Taxable. Ano ho yung basis? Net taxable income. Net taxable income. Wala hong deduction. Ay, meron hong deduction, syempre. Okay? May deductions ho. May mga deductions for expenses, may mga deductions for other items that may not be taxable, ganyan, for example, di ba? And then, ang gagamitin hong taxation scheme is yung regular taxation scheme. Different po siya when it comes to NRC-RA and NRA-ETB. Kapag ho yung tatlong to, non-resident citizen, resident alien, non-resident alien, engaged in trade or business, income within lang ho. Income within lang ho ang papatawan ng tax. And lastly, syempre, net income po. Net income. Okay, so yung net taxable income after every deductions that are necessary. And then, syempre, regular taxation scheme po ang gagamitin. And lastly, NRA, not engaged in trade or business. Pareho lang na income within. However, okay, ang gagamitin natin is yung gross income. Without any deductions, without any items that will be deducted. And of course, ang gagamitin dyan is yung final rate na 25%. Okay? Final and fixed rate na 25%. Ganun ho ka-crucial. Okay? Kung bakit kailangan nating i-segregate ang mga taxpayers as to their situs. RC, NRC, RA, NRA, and NRA Net B. Ngayon, meron hong karampatang dahilan kung bakit. Pero anyway, I'll just give you the time to pause and make a screenshot of this. Okay, anyway, meron ho tayong mga karampatang dahilan or meron ho tayong mga reasons as to why they are considered, okay, why we are taxing resident citizens, for example, ng dalawa, within and without. Then the others, why within lang, ganun. Okay, why within lang. Okay, so, ito ho yung dalawang dahilan. Ito ho yung dalawang dahilan. Okay, the two main reasons why we do this is because of the territorial principle of taxes. And of course, symbiotic principle or the benefits received theory. Yun ho yung dalawang main reason. Ano ho yun? Okay? Ang reason ho natin as to why we tax resident citizens, okay, on all taxable income from sources within and outside, okay, within and outside, is because, number one, resident citizens enjoy preferential privileges. Why? Preferential privilege? Kasi dito sila nakatira eh. Nasa Pilipinas sila. Diba? They receive more benefits than those na nasa ibang bansa na wala dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi, they have full access to public services and government services because they are both residents and citizens of the country. Okay, and of course, syempre, it's with this reason na dapat global ho ang approach natin when it comes to resident citizens. They should be taxed both from their income within the Philippines and from their income outside the Philippines as well. Outside the Philippines as well. Okay? Outside the Philippines. Now, another one is because of the extraterritorial treatment. Ibig sabihin ho nito, extraterritorial treatment, meaning, meron ho kasing high chance na ang mga resident citizens, they can evade taxation. How? How? By, okay? By generating income on places other than the Philippines while they are still in the Philippines. While despite the fact that they are in the Philippines, they can generate income abroad. Okay? And this is a means actually to evade taxes. This is actually a means to avoid taxes. That's why, okay? That is why, meron ho tayong extraterritoriality principle. Na kahit na income mo sa labas, as long as you are a resident here in the Philippines, you are still under the Filipino jurisdiction of taxes, in which kahit na income mo sa labas, okay, since you are a resident citizen, you are still subject to income taxes for your income from other countries. Okay, from other countries. And syempre, because of the territoriality principle, except for resident citizens, di ba, makikita nyo sa table natin kanina, based on the territoriality principle, NRC to NRA Net B, lahat ho sila only taxable on items within the Philippines and not outside the Philippines. Okay, so yung mga items of income nila na sa loob ng Pilipinas nanggaling, okay, those are taxable, while the items of income that are outside of the Philippines, okay, hindi po sila taxable under the Philippine jurisdiction. It's because of the situs or the territoriality principle. So because of the situs or the territoriality principle. Okay? So yun ho yung general rules ng income taxation natin. Okay? So please please stay tuned for an assignment handout tonight. So may mga examples doon, may mga sample problems doon, and may mga nakalagay ho doon na parang mga sample exercises for you to enjoy and for you to understand, para at least maliwanagan kayo sa kung paano ginagawa or paano kino-compute ang items of gross income, plus kung paano makikita whether whether a taxpayer is a citizen, a resident, a non-resident citizen, a non-resident alien, etc. Okay, may mga exercises po kayo makikita doon. So, antabayanan ninyo siguro as early as around 6 p.m. I guess, or 7:30. Ayun, 7:30 p.m. Okay, it will be an exercise. And part of the exercise will be it will be a comprehensive problem sa dulo, in which case it will form part of your drill na rin, para at least, 'di ba, may panghila kayo sa mababang mababang scores niya sa unang seat work or sa unang drill ninyo. Yun. It will form part of your drill. Pwede kayong magtulungan, 'di ba? Pwede kayong mag-search. Giving you the freedom to answer the comprehensive assignment, para at least, 'di ba, ma-practice nyo rin. Okay, ma-practice nyo rin. So, with that, we end our discussion for today. So, for tomorrow, guys, we will hopefully continue with situs principles. Okay, situs principles and other tax reporting schemes. And then, hopefully, we still have 1 hour and 30 minutes left for our for our discussion for the introduction of final income tax. Para at least masimulan na natin ang lesson 4, di ba? So, with that, okay, we end our discussion on the part 1, okay? The first part of income taxation. Part 2 na pala to. Yung una pala kanina yung part 1. Okay? So, this is part 2 of introduction to income taxation. So, thank you very much for tuning in for today's discussion. Again, lagi kong sinasabi, if you have questions, huwag mahihiyang magtanong, okay? With that, we end our discussion, and thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye!